Just to make things clear, this is episode 63 of the Cycling Europe podcast, and my name is Andrew Sykes. Welcome to episode, 60-something of the Cycling Europe podcast. I did have a plan a few days ago, or a couple of weeks ago, to catch a train down to the east side of Wales, down to Llangollen, and meet somebody who I'm going to talk about in a few moments. But everything's kind of transpired against me, and I've just jumped in the car. I'm going to drive down instead. It was a combination of the horrible weather, the train strikes, and the fact that I've now got to be back in West Yorkshire this evening. But irrespective, I'm still looking forward to getting down there, meeting the person I'm going to meet, and finding out all about her travels and what she's done since coming back from her travels. So, let's get started. Just arrived in Wales after about an hour. It's just past 10 o'clock, and would you believe it, the weather has completely transformed. It was blowing a gale, chucking it down in West Yorkshire, and now I'm having to use the sun visor on the car to actually see where I'm going. It's turned out to be really quite a nice day. That's the sound of the River Dee, not the one in Scotland, but another one here in the east of Wales, and it's a raging torrent of a fast-flowing river, standing on the opposite side of the bank to where I think the town is, the town of Llangollen, that is, which is where I'm going to be meeting the interviewee for this episode of the Cycling Europe podcast. More about her in a few moments, but I'm not meeting her until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's only 11 o'clock now, so I'm just going to spend 2 or 3 hours wandering around, seeing what I can discover in the town of Llangollen. Well, I've had a good wander around Llangollen. I'm still near the river, as you can probably hear. I've been up to the International Eisteddfod Pavilion. That takes place in July, not in late December, unfortunately. Busy high street, very popular with tourists. There's a canal that you can walk, cycle and, boat along, of course. And there are even quite a few canoeists in the river, which doesn't surprise me because it's canoeing paradise, I would have thought, when the torrent of the river is like it is today. And the town itself is in quite a dramatic setting, steep-sided valley. And up on the hill to the north of the town is a great ruined castle, and I have to say it's a pity I'm only here for one day, because if I had the time I wouldn't mind climbing up that hill to have a look at the view that you get from the castle, perhaps the next time I'm here. The reason I'm in Llangollen is because of the Cycling UK 100 Women in Cycling list that was published a few weeks ago. Now, every time they've done this, I have a look through to see if there's anybody on the list who might potentially be an interesting person to speak to and appear on the podcast. And I looked at all the pictures on this year's list, and there was only one picture of somebody on a bicycle with a pannier, and that was Beth Ward. And when I looked into her, well, this is what it says on the Cycling UK website about what she's done. She's the founder of Drosi Bikes, which is a community bike workshop here in Llangollen. Now, she started the bike workshop with her partner, and this is where it gets interesting, after a ride from Wales to Istanbul inspired them to think cycling was the answer to pretty much all of life's problems. It's quite a claim. And then they've quoted her, and she says, "I've been riding bikes for as long as I can remember, and I dream of the day that the humble bicycle outnumbers the cars on our roads." Now, before I wander off to find Drosi Bikes, which is not too far away from this windy bandstand, just one more thing. This is from the Drosi Bikes website, and I think it refers back to the journey that she made from Wales to Istanbul. She's written, "Hours, days, weeks and months in the saddle does something funny to your brain. We came back from our trip convinced that cycling was the answer to all of life's problems, and that if we could convince every last one of you to choose a bike, not a car, we'd be well on our way to saving the planet." She's not going to be too happy that I decided to jump in my car today rather than take the train and then cycle from Wrexham. But anyway, I have my excuses pre-prepared. Hi, is it Beth?
It is, yes. Hello, how are you doing?
Nice to
Sorry
meet
we're
you.
late.
No, not late. I wasn't expecting you to still in a car.
Yeah.
I was expecting you to be on two wheels.
No, sadly not. No, we're not living in town at the moment. We're living,
Oh, right, well,
doing some renovation work, so I had to travel over.
thank
Yeah.
you for doing this.
No, you're very welcome.
Because you're actually closed, it says there.
We are closed at the moment,
Yeah.
yeah, for Christmas,
Right.
in theory.
So sorry to drag you
No, not at
away
all.
from your holiday.
No, it's good. I'll introduce you to Robin as well. This is Robin.
Hi.
How you doing?
Other half and
Nice to
other
meet
half
you.
is Drosi as well. So I'm Beth Ward. I'm director, co-founder of Drosi Bikes in North Wales.
And congratulations, because you're also on the list of 100 women in cycling 2022. So
Yes.
congratulations on that. Did that come as a surprise?
I mean, I got an email saying I was nominated. Yes, complete surprise. But now I do know who nominated me.
Right.
So, yeah. I mean, it's an honour. It is. But I've got to admit there aren't that many women in cycling. So I'll take it. However, the competition's not as fierce as it might be elsewhere.
I don't know. I mean, they've been doing it now for, it must be the third, fourth list
Is
that
it?
they've come up with. And,
Yeah.
and I think, they're going to run out of women. But actually, in a country of
True.
60 million people, 30 million women, a good proportion cycle, and
Yeah.
hopefully a good proportion are doing positive things in terms of cycling. So there's probably a lot more people out there.
Yeah, and I suspect it's only growing as well. More
Yeah.
people interested, and more people, once they get interested, want to get more women cycling as well. Yeah.
And it is a very diverse list. And the reason why, when I looked at the list, I looked for anybody who had a picture of a bicycle, or them on a bicycle, and there was a pannier on the bike. And you were the only person on that page of their website,
Wow.
I think.
Yeah, there may have been other ones in there somewhere.
But
Yeah.
you were the only one where I could definitely see a pannier.
Yeah.
And I thought, there must be a cycle touring connection there. Now you're listed on that on the 100 women in cycling list as a, let me get this right, industry guru.
Industry mogul.
Mogul,
Yeah,
that's right.
either
Industry
way, I'll
mogul.
take either one.
Yeah, but actually, you're the origin of your journey in cycling is cycle touring.
It is indeed, yes.
So, well, take us right back to the beginning. Have you always been a cyclist?
I mean, I've always ridden bikes, yes. As a kid, or as a family, we always had bikes. We never did big bike rides. It was always just kind of a family, like you'd expect most families to do.
And you grew up in Llangollen?
In Ruthin, so just down the road from here. Yes.
It's a bit like where I come from in the Calder Valley. You're talking a nice flat valley, but you're talking some pretty steep hills.
Yeah, it's not very friendly for cycling around here, no. So we'd go on holiday. So I remember Norfolk was a popular holiday, and we went to Netherlands or Holland one year as well. So they'd choose carefully where they took us cycling, but we wouldn't do much. And I think that's probably why we didn't do much, is because it's so hilly and it's all on lanes, and cars are obviously on the lanes, so not very family friendly. So we did bits and pieces, and then I always since working, I've always gone to work by bike. So I've lived in cities since university, and commuting by bike was just the obvious choice. I mean, I don't know if you've ever commuted by bike, but it's often faster and you're outside and far less stressful. So I always commuted by bike. So I always saw cycling as more than just a kind of a leisure activity. It was always a way to get from A to B, or a way to be outside instead of sitting in a vehicle. And then I guess I'd started relying on a bike, and that's where the cycle touring. And then I met Robin, my partner, who is of a similar mindset, and we've done a few little short cycle tours, but never anything like what we did when we cycled across Europe. So that was.
So when did you do that? What year was that?
Oh, that was summer before the pandemic.
2019.
2019, yes.
So relatively recently.
Yeah.
So were you working? I mean, you went from Wales, from Llangollen.
Yeah.
To Istanbul?
So I set off from Carnarvon, actually. Right. So I did I don't know if you've heard of the Lôn Las, down from North to South Wales.
Yeah,
I did that with my parents, so they joined me for the first 4 days, and I met Robin, who had just finished work the day before. We met in Monmouth, and then we rode from there, and then into Europe from there.
And was it the kind of job that required you to throw in your job and abandon everything back here?
His was by choice. He left, and mine, I actually did go back to. So I was living in Cornwall, working in Cornwall, and then I managed to get a different role up in North Wales with them when I got back. But it was a kind of, we are leaving, and I think if you've got a job to come back to, it changes the dynamic of the trip. For us, we wanted an open-ended trip. We didn't know we were going to cycle to Istanbul when we set off. There was no direct plan. We kind of took it day by day, week by week as we were on the road. And I think if you know that you've got to be back by a certain date and you've got a certain plan, it's a lot more restrictive, both in the trip itself, but also where your mind goes when you're away. You can't quite get into that same rhythm.
I agree completely there, because I've done 4 big trips around Europe, and only one of them really didn't, because I'd given up my job back in 2015, and I didn't have a job to go back to in September. And you're right, it did change the dynamic, because it basically meant the only parameter on the length of the journey was either a physical one or a financial one. Basically running out of money. Yeah. But it wasn't. But on the others, I've always, in the back of my mind, I've always been very conscious of the fact that I've got to be back at school on the, 1st, 2nd, 3rd of September.
And therefore, you get halfway through, and suddenly you're like, "Oh God, I'm halfway through," and you start slowly starting to think more and more about your return. Yeah,
that's such an interesting point. So, how long did it take you to get from Wales to Istanbul in 2019?
It took us, I think it was exactly 3 months to get there, and then it took us 1 month to get back. So we took the long route there, I guess, and then we ferry hopped back across Greece, Italy, Spain, and then up from Spain. Okay. Then.
And had you done any long distance cycling before that?
No, I don't think I had. Robin had, so he was definitely the driver for it. I hadn't. I like the idea of it. I've always I love planning adventures and I love long distance things, but I'd never done one to that degree. I'd done weekends and stuff like that. That was a different kettle of fish. Yeah.
And how did you kind of immediately love it, or did you was there a kind of a period of acclimatisation?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the first few weeks. I don't know how different it is. I've never done one by myself. So there was a lot of figuring out how we go on a cycle trip together. And we both ride different paces. We both have different agendas for the day. We both want to stop for coffee at different times. It's kind of figuring that out. I want to ride harder. He wants to ride like more relaxed. One day I'm tired, the next day he's. So it's kind of, I think that was the acclimatization. And then as soon as we got into the groove of each other's rhythm, and then it was much more enjoyable, I guess. And we kind of, you could fully appreciate it, and you knew where you stood.
And you were camping?
We were camping, so it depended a little bit on the countries we were passing through and the weather. So if the weather was, like, if we had grim weather for a few days, we'd book into a hostel. We tended to do 6 days riding, 1 day off, and we'd probably like either get a hotel or an apartment or something for that day so that we could fully relax, unless it was sunny and you can relax camping. But if it's rainy on your day off, it was harder to do that. So we were combination of wild camping. The municipal campsites in France are great, so we did a lot of staying in them. And then Europe, kind of Central Europe, so Austria, we passed through in the like peak summer, so everywhere was just jam packed. So that definitely made it a little bit harder. And then the further east we got, the more tentative we were with camping. So we still did camp, but we probably erred more towards apartments and hotels, and it also got cheaper there as well.
Why was that? What was that?
I've got a real, like, I'm a light sleeper. I don't sleep well, and then so overnight anything wakes me up, and then I just lie there. My imagination just runs wild, and Robin's a great sleeper. He sleep through anything. So it was probably more me who were towards the kind of getting an apartment or something, just so I could get a full night's sleep and relax.
Yeah. And at what point, you said at the beginning that you didn't set off with the intention of going to Istanbul.
Yeah.
At what point did you think, okay, let's aim for Istanbul?
We would discuss it every day. Where are we going? We were planning. Well, I can't remember where we were planning. We were thinking Georgia, and then we looked at a map and saw how big Turkey was, and we were like, oh my god, that'll take us weeks to get across Turkey. And coming back, we didn't want to fly back, so that was quite a restriction for us, because once you get to Georgia, you've then got to cycle back through Turkey to get back. So Istanbul just seemed like an obvious place, but halfway there, we did actually, we called it an Istambargo, where we just we're not allowed to talk about where we were going, because every day we'd just revisit where do you want to go? And you just get focused on the end point instead of enjoying the day as you're going. So we stopped talking about it for a couple of weeks, and then we were like, okay, let's just go to Istanbul and see how we feel there. And it just felt like the obvious place to turn around, turn right, and you're kind of looping back on yourself. And
then you, like you said, you ferry hopped.
Yeah,
was there any cycling involved in that?
Yeah, so we cycled down for a few days down through Turkey, got the ferry to Lesbos and then to Athens, and then we cycled across Greece and got the ferry to Italy, across Italy to Barcelona, and then up from Barcelona. So that was actually really nice, because each country was a short stint. It was always only about 4 days in each country, so it was quite fast. And part of the rush was the weather was turning, so we were nearing late autumn, winter, and it's just a different ball game to cycle touring.
And did you get the ferry from northern Spain?
No, then we cycled up, and then I don't know if you remember that winter there was a massive storm that hit Europe. It was just when we hit Carcassonne in France, so we actually got the train then for about 100k or 200k, no, it must have been more than that, 300k let's say, and then we cycled the last week and ended with cycling, but we missed out that central France because of the storm that hit.
You went to Carcassonne. Did you go on the Canal du Midi?
No.
Oh, good choice. It's awful.
Is it?
Yeah. Anyway, right, so you've done this big tour now.
Yeah.
I've got a piece of paper, and there's a quote on your website, and it says, "Hours, days, weeks and months in the saddle does something funny to your brain. We came back from the trip convinced that cycling was the answer to all of life's problems, and that if we could convince every last one of you to choose a bike, not a car, we'd be well on our way to saving the planet. Now, I can sympathise with you coming up with that kind of thinking when you're on a long trip, because there's a hell of a long time to think.
Yeah.
Even if you're travelling with other people,
yeah.
You don't spend the entire day talking to each other. And these kind of ideas do develop in your brain. So, at what point did you start to have a concrete idea as to when you came back to Britain, you would end up doing something like Drosi bikes? What was the process? Was it one of you who suddenly said one day, "Oh, why don't we go back to Wales and open a bike shop?" Or was it a bit more
I think
nuanced?
It was a combination of lots of seeds being planted.
Yeah.
I think so. Interestingly, on the way down, as we were passing through Wales, we were staying somewhere, and on the worktop they had some magazines, and in one of them was an article about a bike recycling shop in, I can't remember where it was, so I read that, and that was day 3 of our bike trip. We got to Bristol and we visited Bristol Bike Project, which is a similar kind of project, and that just reinforced that. And then as we continued, we started appreciating cycling and bikes, and then as you pass through Europe, as you well know, people treat cycling very, very differently there. In the UK, it's very much a leisure activity. People mountain bike. They drive somewhere, they mountain bike, and they get back in the car. It's not a mode of transport. They don't do their daily activities on them. It's seen as this kind of luxury, indulgent activity. Whereas in Europe, people were cycling their kids' places. So it just reinforced this idea of the way that we've been using our bikes over the last 20 years to get around instead of using a car, that there are people out there who also do that. It just happens that they don't do that in the UK. And so we'd see this on a daily basis. There were drivers who are incredibly courteous and who would drive with meters kind of space between you and them, and making you feel safe and welcome on the road. So it's all of these different things that I guess made us realise how life could be and how the cycling world could be in the UK if there were people changing it. And obviously there are many, many, many people trying to change it from the inside out in the UK. So I think it was a case of us seeing all of these things and having all of that time on bikes to say, oh, I've thought about this, or oh, maybe we could do this. And Robin he's very interested in the technical, mechanical side and keeps very on top of what's going on in the world, and had come across the electric bike conversion kits. Mm-hmm. And he was really interested in that. And at the time, which is it was only 3 years ago, but electric bikes in the UK were not a thing. People were completely judged if they had an e-bike, and much less a degree now. But they're also incredibly expensive and unaffordable, and that really interests him. So thinking about how an electric bike conversion kit could help more people get on e-bikes instead of using cars. Again, so it's kind of, so he was thinking about that. I was thinking of it much more from a social, environmental perspective, and then I guess both of us talking about our interests while we're on our bikes, and then you mull it over for a few days and you're like, oh, thought about this, and you've just got all this time, and it's. And
did you write these ideas down? Did you kind of come up? I imagine you kind of arriving in Istanbul with a I don't know, a file,
a business plan.
Kind of,
that would be nice.
This is what we're going to do. I assume that's not what happened.
No, I think we did write things down, and ideas we'd jot down, or to a much lesser degree we would. But I think that's just the way we work. If we were, even now, we've got a rough business plan, but it's not as rigid as some people's probably is. So it was, lots of jotting down our ideas or thinking about what it could be. And at that point, we didn't know where we were going to move to when we moved back to the UK. So we had this idea of what we wanted to do, but then we were like, but we don't know where we're going to be, and is there a need for it there? And so when we moved back to North Wales, we were then trying to figure out where in North Wales we'd live, and coincide that with how it fitted with our idea for Drosi bikes or a bike workshop. And so we'd pick somewhere and be like, yeah, but there are there's no need there, or people don't cycle there, and then, so it was trying to fit all of these parts together. And then COVID happened, and by that point we still hadn't started Drosi Bikes or the project, and then we saw this massive increase of interest in cycling, and people trying to get hold of bikes, and people trying to get hold of electric bikes, and suddenly people were engaging with bikes a lot more than we'd ever seen before. So that's when that kind of gave us a kick up the arse to actually get things going.
Because lots of people come up with really, probably quite innovative, good ideas when they're on long bike rides. But most people, when they get back home, just go back into their normal everyday life. And it kind of, the idea never comes to fruition. The one other person or two other people that I can think of who did have an idea on a long bike ride are Tim and Laura Moss. I don't know if you know them.
No, I don't.
They founded the Cycle Touring Festival, and they did it. They had this idea when they were cycling around the world of doing that, and when they came back, they did found that festival, which is still going. So you're there aren't that many people out there who have these really good ideas, but actually put them into practice when they get back. And you just mentioned it. You came back in late 2019, and 2020 was COVID. But that was kind of two-edged by the sounds of it.
Yes, so I think we were one of the few industries or types of organisation that benefited, I hate to use that word, but kind of it was an opportunity as opposed to a hindrance for cycling in general. Did
that also help with funding, COVID?
Did it help with... I think at the moment, because we've got an environmental aspect to what we're doing, I think there is more funding out there for this type of project because there's more environmental awareness, as well as, I mean, the benefits of cycling. I don't need to preach about it, but they're so needed at the moment, both the health and kind of mental well-being. The funding is there, I think. It's a very fundable project, or it was a few years ago. We did actually get some COVID relief funding, so to help cover costs while we, through various lockdowns, were closed down. So it definitely helped with that.
So I think we're probably getting a bit ahead of ourselves, because we actually haven't really described and defined what Drosi Bikes is.
Yes.
We're standing in quite a cold, it's a very large shed, but when I walked past earlier, on the back it said stage door, and there is a connection. It used to be a theatre.
It used to be a theatre, so originally...
We're not talking the Theatre Royal Drury.
No. Think farm shed come theatre. That's where we're at. So it used to be part of the mill, which is just across the road, and this used to be the storeroom for the grains, and then it was a theatre. So we've got the stage door at the back, the ticket window at the front still, and then since then it's been outdoor centre or used for outdoor companies. So there was a climbing wall, and then it was a rafting company that was based here as well.
And was this kind of first on your list of, I know a good building in the middle of...
No, they came to us. So what we were doing when we had the idea for Drosi Bikes, and then obviously a venue or a facility is crucial to what we're doing. So we were working from home for the first 6 months of COVID, and it just completely limits what you can offer. We could offer bike repairs, and that's about it. And that's only a small part of what we do. So we were then putting it out to every kind of, we were visiting, or like we were talking on all the town council groups, we were joining all the community organisations when they would get together on Zoom. And the beauty of the pandemic was that everyone was catching up online, so it was really easy for us to go and say, this is our idea, this is what we want to do. And it was through one of those that someone said, I've got a big shed that's going free at the moment, do you want to rent it? And it's perfect for what we're doing.
It must have been quite exhausting to begin with, trying to persuade other people of your vision. Did you find that a real challenge? Were people quite sceptical as to what you could do?
Yes, totally. And it's exhausting is the right way to describe it, because you're constantly coming up against people who are like, bike shops are always closing, it won't work, you won't be able, Llangollen's too small, it's never going to kind of take off. And then once you kind of once you've got established and you've got a regular customer base and people are coming through and people are talking about it, people are interesting, those people who were skeptical in the beginning are kind of slowly starting to be like, oh yeah, it sounds like it's going okay now, which is great because they're starting to realise it's the use and the benefit to the community as well. But I mean, like any new project, it almost feels like people want you to fail. I don't think they do, but it just, you get that feeling. With a few people, and we wouldn't be where we are today without a few community members who really were like helping to facilitate this to happen in their town. And I think that's crucial. You've got to have the community behind you to get it going.
Now, you've mentioned the bike repair.
Yes.
But that's just one small part of, well, probably a big part.
Yeah.
But it's one part of what you do. You do a whole range of other things here as well. So what are the other things that you get involved with?
So we started out with converting normal bikes to electric bikes. That was a big part of kind of what we were about to begin with. We also take donated bikes and refurbish them either for reselling or to donate them to refugee and asylum seeker charities.
And the electric bikes, I mean, when I've travelled in Europe, it's become increasingly apparent that e-bikes on the continent have taken off in a big way. It's only been quite recent in Britain. Was that something that you observed when you were travelling abroad?
Completely. We were still in that phase of kind of judging and it's cheating. I'm too old. I'm not old enough for that. And we've both got electric bike conversions, and they're a total game changer. It's just about the way you look at them. If you see them as a tool, if you see them as a car alternative, then they are amazing. We've got a 1-year-old now, but I was still commuting to work on the bike up to like 8 months pregnant, but I would never have been doing that on a normal bike, and that enabled me to do exercise for the duration of that. So there are all of these kind of stories that you hear of now that electric bikes are starting to kind of get more traction, that people were just they weren't listening to back then, which I think is really sad, because I think they are incredible tools, and it just makes cycling more accessible, which is, again, that's what we're all about. So, and
especially the geography of,
oh my goodness,
where we are
here.
I would have thought that is, if e-bikes can take off anywhere, surely it's in a place like this.
I know,
where you've got hills everywhere.
Yeah, steep hills as well, that you can't, even if you fit cyclists, you can't get up them. So yeah, I think it just means that more people can cycle here and choose to cycle here, which is the big difference. So
are people paying you to convert their bike, or are you hiring bikes out that you've converted?
A bit of both. So we've also got bikes that we hire out. So we do. They're kind of, the idea is to promote active travel locally, so locals can rent them for a donation base, but we also hire them out to tourists or anyone who's visiting, and that's a bit of income generating for us. And then we sell secondhand parts as well. We run lots of DIY workshops, so people come in, use our tools to fix their own bikes, and then we do maintenance training, so teaching people. We have a whole women's project where we're trying to encourage more women to get involved in bike workshops, and actually we're very proud of the fact that we have 2 women and 2 men who work in our workshop, both all qualified mechanics. So it's very rare that you come across that in a bike workshop. It's just trying to change the status quo, I guess, and challenge that.
And that must help with women coming through the door.
Totally.
And actually having a conversation with another woman about a bike. Because even as you tend to walk in and have a conversation with a man.
Yeah.
I mean, my mechanical skills are pretty minimal, and I feel intimidated very often when they start talking about sprockets.
You easily get lost, can't you? I know.
But presumably that breaks down the barrier of people coming in.
And I think we all make a conscious effort not to use jargon, we say it's non-judgmental bike repairs, make sure people don't feel kind of like they don't understand or they don't belong here. We work on all sorts of bike, and mostly lower end, so people feel comfortable bringing the bikes that they haven't maintained, and we're not going to judge them for not maintaining them. We'll do whatever it is they need doing on them, and that is a big part of what we do as well, just making people realise that not all cycle shops have to be these dark, dimly lit, expensive kind of male-dominated places.
Yeah, I mean, some bike shops nowadays, they resemble clinics.
Yeah.
Rather than,
Yeah.
where surgery takes place.
Yeah, where you don't want to touch anything
Yeah.
in case you damage it, yeah.
So, looking around the workshop, looking around the shed, old theatre, whatever it is, you've got bikes here that presumably these are for sale.
Yeah.
Because I can see the label, £60,
Yeah.
£50, and they're all donated bikes.
They've all been donated and then refurbished either by volunteers and then checked by one of our mechanics, or done up by our mechanics. So if any parts need replacing, they've all had a safety check and make sure they're in kind of good working order before we sell them on.
And do they sell quite quickly? Or?
They really did last year. This year it slowed down a bit. I think the second-hand market's kind of saturated since COVID. I think people are just spending less as well this year.
Yeah. You've got your workshop over in the corner, which looks pretty well equipped.
Yep.
And then you've got some about 8-10 bikes which are hanging up. They're all black bikes. Mm-hmm. Are those ones that you've converted, that you've bought? Do you rent those out? Or?
Yeah, so we rent them as kind of traditional hire bikes, but we've got half and half. So half of them are converted by us and half of them are just bog standard bikes. The idea is that people can have a go on a converted bike before they invest. The last thing we want to see is people buying an electric bike that never gets used or converting a bike that they then never use. We want to make sure that people know what they're letting themselves in for, know how it works before they go ahead and do it themselves. Know that it's fit for what they need. So that's why we chose to convert them as opposed to buy electric bikes.
Apart from the price, I think you mentioned that the converting is far cheaper than buying. How do they actually work? I mean, if I brought my bike in, how would you convert it to be an e-bike?
So it fits, the motor fits in the bottom bracket. So you take off all of the parts around the bottom bracket, the motor fits in there, and everything else remains the same. The battery fits on the frame, and then it's all wired up with the screen on the handlebars. So it's very, it fits with 95% of bikes. So the odd, it doesn't do carbon frames, full suspension. The battery doesn't fit because of the geometry of the frame. It doesn't really fit in there. So there are the odd exception, but it fits most kind of normal bikes.
And then you've got a couple of rooms. You've got a couple of doors. Mm-hmm. You've got more bikes through there.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yep. So they're more donated bikes, and then also all of our second-hand wheels and tyres are stored in there as well.
And then you've got, is that your office next door?
No, that's another business next door.
Ah, right.
Yeah, so they rented the office space there.
Right, so they're nothing to do
with
us?
they're nothing to do with us.
Okay, and then you've got a mezzanine.
Yes.
What's up there?
More bikes. So we were worried that that people wouldn't donate, that there weren't enough bikes out there to be donated to make this work in a small town. And at one point, it must have been 2 months ago, we had to stop taking donations because we've got 130 bikes waiting to be refurbished. Our limiting factor is the number of people we have working on the bike, so it's staff or volunteers. But the people are incredibly generous with the bikes that they donate. We've had that full suspension there has been donated. We had a couple of road bikes donated, so we get a whole range of bikes that people they like giving to a good cause, and they like the idea that it's not going to end up in landfill, that it's going to have more use out of it, and people seem to be get behind that.
And are you the only place in Llangollen that is a bike shop? You're kind of a bike shop with a difference. Are there other bike shops?
With that difference, surprisingly there are 3. So for a small town, it seems like quite a lot, and that's another reason why we're quite specific on what we offer and the type of bikes that we work on. We'd say we focus on utility cycling, so people who are family cyclists or cycling from A to B, or kind of your average bike. There's a high-end bike shop. They sell lots of really nice, expensive parts, and then there's another bike shop that works much more with road cyclists and selling new bikes, neither of which we do. So we kind of fit within that niche, and I think in a small town you've got to make sure that you don't. We work quite closely with one of them because we don't want to be competition. We want to make sure that we all work and we all kind of find our place in the local community.
Yeah, you must have coming today in the middle of winter, it's fairly obvious that Llangollen is quite a popular place with tourists. Mm-hmm. I would imagine in the summer even more so. Is there, or do you get involved in the tourist trade? Do you do guided tours or things like that?
No, we get involved with regards to bike hire. So that's definitely picks up in summer. We have talked about doing tours, and we've been kind of debating whether it aligns with what we're trying to achieve, which is much more the environmental utility, which it doesn't quite, but it definitely aligns with getting more people on bikes, which is also what we're trying to do here. And a lot of people, when they come to hire bikes, they're a bit nervous about where they can go. So there is a canal path in town that most people, 99% of people, just go along the canal path to the aqueduct and back again, because they can't get lost. Straightforward, they don't have to think about it. And I think with a guide, you can, there's so many beautiful spots around here that could be explored, and lovely country lanes. You don't have to go along the busy A5. It just makes all of these amazing scenic spots much more accessible with a guide. So I think there's definitely scope for doing that, and we've talked about doing it in the next year or two for sure.
Where do you get your funding from, apart from people actually buying the bikes and renting things? You're a not-for-profit company?
Yeah.
Community interest company?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But you still need external funding, is that right?
Yeah. So we're partially reliant on grant funding. So to date we've pulled from various small pots. So we've had some from the National Lottery, some from local funding pots, some from kind of comic relief funding as well. So it's kind of drawing for each of our individual projects. We draw in a little bit of money, which helps us keep on delivering all of these activities. Mm-hmm. And it also makes sure that we can offer things for free. And I think cost is a real barrier to lots of people cycling and fixing their bikes or getting out on their bikes. And it means that we can, for people who can't afford it, they can still get their bikes, kind of keep their bikes on the road. And I think that's quite an important thing.
And what do the local community think? Are they very, obviously you've got the people who do come in and mm-hmm. buy your bikes, but are you quite well known now in the area as being the go-to place for fixing your bike or donating a bike? And are they ever, have they expressed their support in other ways? Does the pie shop kind of bring you deliveries?
That'd be nice, wouldn't it? We have done some exchanges where we fixed a bike for the pizza shop, so they've given us a pizza in return for the bike service. So it's those kinds of relationships that we want.
Well, isn't it? I can't pronounce it.
Llangollen?
Yeah, down the valley. Don't they have a bartering system down there?
Oh, is it Machyntydd you're talking about?
That's right,
Yeah. So it's skill for skill kind of thing where they do, which would be amazing. Yeah, there's a great pie shop, so I'm all for it.
Yeah, because that's on the Long Last Cymru, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
And I remember cycling through, and I must have seen something about, or read something about this bartering system that they had.
Yeah.
And actually, Llangollen is not that dissimilar a place.
No, it's a very similar vibe, isn't it? Yeah. Lots of kind of alternative thinking people who might be up for it.
So, right.
There you go. You planted the seed there, didn't you?
Yeah, you heard it here first. And how do you see it kind of in the future? Will it, if I came back in 3-4 years' time, will you have moved into a beautiful new building?
That would be nice.
With lots of Pinarello bikes on the wall?
Yeah, lots of expensive bikes, dim lights. I would like to think it's slightly better organised than it is now. Whether we're still, this is an ideal location, we'd love to stay here. Whether the building survives is another matter. I think we want to stay in Llangollen. We want to, if we can make this building work, it would be a case of, we want to display, we've got some amazing second-hand parts, some amazing second-hand bikes that they're not visible when people come in. So we'd love to make this space here, which is kind of a bit of a mismatch at the moment. If we can make all of this bikes for sale, all of the second-hand parts, kind of the quite niche and specialist parts, that people could come and just browse and see, I think would get a lot more people coming in through the doors, because it's a bit more interesting to everyone, a bit more information. We'd love some more kind of more signs on the walls about what we do, our environmental kind of the challenges or what we're trying to achieve, a bit more education as much as or awareness raising. So I think that's where we're trying to get to. Slow process.
You could do with a window, I have to say.
I know. We normally, when we're not closing, especially in summer, have those 2 double doors wide open. Wow. So it's like a big garage door. That's where people. That's when it's great. Is in summer, people walk past and it's this huge opening that feels quite welcoming. But in winter, you're like, there's a wind howling outside. You don't want big double doors open. But you're right. It's a bit dingy, isn't it? It's all part of it.
It's brilliant. And if somebody somewhere were to come to you and say, actually, I like what you've done there, what would be your pieces of advice? What to do and perhaps what not to do, if to recreate something similar in their particular town or village or city?
So it's an interesting one, because there are lots of equivalents of this in cities, but not many rural ones, and I think it's a lot harder to make something like this work in a rural location. Our approach has been try everything. So when I was listing all of the things we do a a lot of everything and draw a bit of income and a bit of kind of our customer base from each of those activities, whereas in a city you can focus much more on one of them, and there's a big enough population to make that work. So I'd say if you're rural, try everything, see what works for you, see what makes what the community is interested in. I'd also say involve the community from the get-go and see what they're doing. For us, an absolute game changer has been having more than just Robin and I working here. We've got 2 other staff now, and having 4 of us involved is just the best thing, because you've got 4 brains, you've got four amounts of enthusiasm and kind of 4 people to draw inspiration from and ideas, and I'd say that has been the best thing for us, for sure. So not the more people, there's got to be some optimum level of kind of more optimal number, and I'd say for us it is definitely that 4.
And you do deliveries. You've got a cargo bike.
Yeah, I haven't mentioned our cargo bike. This is quite something. So again, this is a trial or a bit of a pilot project. We've got a big cargo bike that we got some national lottery funding last year to purchase, and we've been offering deliveries locally to trying to get people out of cars and trying to inspire people to use bikes or think of bikes differently. And it's definitely been a conversation point. People are interested, people are curious.
Well, and also it's a good way of advertising.
Yes,
because if you
it's cycling around,
cycling around, it's kind of just a moving billboard, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's amazing. It's taken a long time to kind of get it. It's slow moving, basically, like any new idea or new concept is, and I think that's been a big realization for us, is that people take attitudes and interest takes time. Basically, people see it. I heard recently that it takes seeing something 7 times before you notice it, and that's, I can kind of relate to that if you walk past a shop 7 times, you're like, oh, I might pop in there. And
it's like kids being taught 7 times to do something in school.
If only it was only 7 times.
Yeah.
So I think that's we love it. We can totally see the potential. It's worked in all sorts of cities, and again, it's the rural. Rurality is the limiting factor, I suspect, with that.
2 more questions, 2 final questions. The second one I've already forgotten, but what does Drosi bikes actually mean?
So Drosi is a Welsh word, so it comes from trosi, which is to recycle or refurbish. So that's the Welsh word for it. So because we're in Wales, we really, really wanted to try and incorporate some of the Welsh language in the name, or kind of show that we're from Wales.
You said it comes from the word
trosi. So is 2 in Welsh. So to recycle. So trosi is
with
a T is. Yeah, I know. Welcome to Welsh. So trosi is to recycle or refurbish, and then there's a soft mutation, I think what it's called, to change the first letter, is when you put to do it instead of just the doing.
Right, okay, this is rapidly turning
into a Welsh lesson. We should have just
a linguistics podcast. I still don't understand that,
So-
but don't worry about it.
No,
Don't worry.
we
But
won't.
anyway, it's called Drosi, and it
Exactly,
comes from,
yes.
it comes from the Welsh,
Welsh.
to recycle or reuse.
Exactly. Yeah, that's all you need to know.
Right, okay. And the other question is, going back full circle, have you got any plans to head off again? Because you've now got a
We've
small
got a
child.
1-year-old, yeah. Yes, we're going to Brittany next year, and we're going to cycle there. So God knows how that'll go with a, what's he going to be, 18-month-old. I think we're going to draw from inspiration from all of the people, the families before us who've done big trips, and we'll be busy Googling and reading blogs, I'm sure. I suspect that'll be our first big-ish trip, which I'm sure will seem massive with a baby. And we'll probably do some practices to see how it goes. I think a trailer, shove them in the trailer, right?
Yeah, well, that's what,
with some
that's what
toys,
people
that's
do,
what
yeah.
people do, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, and they have a great time.
Exactly,
yeah, so,
with a baguette, and
yeah.
everyone's happy.
Yeah, give them a baguette to munch and
Yeah.
a bottle of wine for you.
Yeah, I know.
Right, okay, well, thank you, and again, congratulations on the being one of the 100 women in cycling 2022, and long may Drosi bikes continue to flourish in the future.
Thank you, it's been a pleasure.
And thank you to Beth of Drosi Bikes. You can find out more about the bike shop and what they do if you go to drossibikes.org. That's Drosi, D-R-O-S-I, drossibikes.org. So thanks to Beth. That has been episode 63 of the Cycling Europe podcast. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to find out more about the podcast, you can visit cyclingeurope.org/podcast. If you'd like to get in contact, you can do so by emailing podcast@cyclingeurope.org, and all the contact details can be found at cyclingeurope.org/contact. And finally, if you'd like to support the podcast, then all you need to do is visit cyclingeurope.org/support, and you'll find all the information as to how you might be able to do that. So thank you for listening. We'll be back with episode 64 of the Cycling Europe podcast very soon. So thank you for listening, and happy cycling.